Hey guys, it's me Courtney and welcome to my channel. Today we're going to be doing another Throwback Thursday. I kind of talked about this a little bit in my Sephora sale haul, I think it was. I got the Giorgio Armani Power Fabric Foundation. This is one of those products that it came out a while ago. There was a lot of buzz around it. Even though it does kind of have the same packaging, this one is not to be confused with the Giorgio Armani Luminous Silk Foundation. This one is supposed to be a little bit more high coverage. It's supposed to be like a soft matte, like a velvety matte kind of situation. So it's on definitely the opposite spectrum, if that makes sense. But because I was so happy with the Luminous Silk, I did want to try out the Power Fabric. So if you are interested in the Power Fabric Foundation from Giorgio Armani, then please continue to watch. This foundation is $64 for 1 ounce. It is Armani, so it's a little bit more expensive. It comes in 30 shades. I got the shade 8.75, which is the same color that I have in the Luminous Silk Foundation. The top one right here, this one is the Luminous Silk Foundation. And as you can see, it is a warmer tone, way more close to my skin tone. The one on the bottom is the Power Fabric. It has a hint of warm, but to me, it rings a little bit more neutral. If you are my complexion or in my complexion range, my complexion twinsy, then in the Power Fabric Foundation, the closest thing that you can get to it is the 8.75. The next shade up is more of a rosy tone, so I really don't recommend that one. And then after that one, it gets a little deeper. It does claim to be a full coverage matte with SPF, and then it does claim to be lightweight. That's about all the claims of it. It doesn't claim to be like 24-hour, 14-hour wear or anything like that. It just says long wear. Essentially the way that I do my foundation reviews, as you guys may or may not know, if you're new here you might not know, but I try products for about a week before I really come to you guys and tell you how I feel about them. I try to get a really good feel for a product, what products it works best with, what primers, what concealers, powders, that sort of thing. So this is 2 pumps, and as you can see, it's not super thick, but it's not runny either. Like, it's a nice consistency. I'm gonna take the 2 pumps. I'm gonna go in with my Real Technique sponge first on one side. This is without, and this is with the foundation. So as you guys can see, it is a little bit lighter, a little bit weirder in undertone for my skin. But it does have a really decent coverage. The only problem is that on one side was 2 pumps. And what I find with this foundation is, even though it is full coverage, even though it does spread nicely, I tend to have to use 3 to 4 pumps of it. And I think for my full coverage foundations, I like to just be able to use less, especially if they're gonna be higher in price. I like to be able to use less of a foundation and spread it out a little bit more. All right, so now I'm gonna take 2 more pumps. On the back of my hand, I'm gonna go in with my Fenty foundation brush. So this is with a full face. This is the brush side, and this is the sponge side. So with the brush, I do feel like I get a little bit more coverage. However, with the sponge, I feel like it's a little bit more of a natural look when I look up close to it. On the side that I use the sponge, I feel like it's way more comfortable than this side. While I was putting my foundation on, I realized I do not have a primer today. So we're going to test it up against our bare skin, essentially. Well, our skincare is underneath it. But we're just gonna be testing it against basically bare skin. I don't have like a layer underneath the foundation helping it out. But again, I've been trying this out with my primers and stuff, and I'll let you guys know like my total thoughts and all that stuff. Now, another thing that I want to note, aside from the color and aside from like the actual dewiness of the foundation, I'm already creasing right here. There's nothing, no powders, no anything that I've been able to put in conjunction with this foundation to make it not crease right here. That being said, I'm gonna go ahead and finish the rest of my face and we'll talk. All Alrighty guys, I am back and this is the face we are gonna be rocking today. If you are curious about any of the products that I am wearing, of course I will leave that in the description box below. Now, a few things that I don't know if I already noted, but I'm gonna go ahead and note them again. Because of the color of this foundation is like a little bit off, I do have a slight discoloration around my mouth that I'm not crazy about. Again, I do have a little bit of creasing going on in my smile lines here. I did set my face today with the Sephora Micro Smooth powder. I have gone without setting this foundation before, and I think that's doable as well, especially if you have dry skin like I do. But today, for some reason, this foundation was just extra dewy on me, so I wanted to make sure I went ahead and gave it a fair chance, so I went ahead and powdered it. It is now 9:48. I have a few errands that I have to run, a few places I have to be. So I'm gonna go ahead and get out of here now, and I will see you guys at the 6 to 8 hour mark. Alright guys, I am back, and this is what my face is looking like. Ever since I tried the Luminous Silk, I kind of wanted to try this foundation. And again, I understand that they're going to be two different types of foundations. Don't get me wrong, totally understand that. But I think where I guess the disconnect for me is the Luminous Silk foundation is very true to what it says it is, right? It's a luminous foundation. It's very lightweight. It's very soft. Whereas for me, this foundation just isn't quite what it claims to be. It didn't have a ton of claims in general, but the main claim was for it to be high coverage, which I do agree with to a point, because even with the amount of coverage that it gives, I do have to typically use 3 to 4 pumps for my entire face to be like an even amount of coverage. Whereas if I use my full coverage Hourglass matte foundation, I literally need half a pump. Or if I use my Becca Ultimate Coverage foundation, which that one's not necessarily a matte foundation, but it is super full coverage, I literally need 1 pump of that. So yes, you can definitely get that full coverage, don't get me wrong, but it just takes more product to get that full coverage than I would like in a full coverage foundation. Also, another thing that kind of trips me out about this foundation is that, I mean, you guys saw when I first put it on, it was still dewy. And again, it claims to be a matte foundation, like a velvet matte. And so when I think of a velvet matte formula, I think of, you know, the Makeup Forever velvet matte kind of formula. I think of products along those lines. And this one just does not stack up to that. And all other times that I've tried this foundation, it doesn't matter if I'm wearing a primer, no primer, dewy primer, mattifying primer. In all of the cases that I've worn this foundation, it always starts out a little bit dewier. And then on top of that, at the end of the day, every single time I've worn this foundation, this is what I look like. So getting into my actual face right now, you guys see I'm oily here, super oily on my forehead, yep, oily down here, oily everywhere. A lot of times with matte foundations, because I have dry skin, I choose not to set it. And this is a foundation that whether I set it or I don't set it, I will end up looking like this. It opens my pores up in a way that's really, really unflattering for my skin. The color we kind of already talked about. And actually, I was thinking about it. I was wondering if maybe the color difference in this and the Luminous Silk, I wonder if that's from the SPF that's in this one. Because if I'm not mistaken, the Luminous Silk does not have SPF. And as you guys saw earlier, that foundation is a little bit more warm in tone. So I wonder if the SPF is what made it more of a cooler to neutral tone foundation. Hence the reason the bottom of my face is turning gray. For S and G's, I'm gonna go ahead and powder so you guys can see what that'll look like. I'm gonna take my Huda Beauty baking powder, since that's right here. By the way, I definitely forgot to tell you guys the time. It is 6:41 now. The thing that I'm noticing when I'm looking up close is where my oils were right here. It kind of has like almost like an oxidation-y situation going on. In trying this foundation out, I have tried putting powder on top of my oils before, and the same thing happened where it's kind of like darker around this area, and it was dark to the point that my husband actually noticed it. And again, when I look up close, even though this is a very blurring powder that I put on top, you can still see my pores, and already I'm starting to get oily all over again. So it's just luckily I did get this on the Sephora VIB sale situation. I did get it for 20% off, so I'm not mad at that at all. However, it still does not stack up to my Hourglass. It doesn't stack up to my Becca, my Kat Von D. It doesn't stack up, you know what I mean? Like there's alternatives to this foundation that are way better, and I would recommend over this. This is one of those products that a lot of people were raving about at one point. So I mean, a lot of people must like it, but just for me personally, I don't feel like it was worth the hype. All right guys, that about does it for me in today's Throwback Thursday. Hopefully this video was helpful. If so, please give me a thumbs up. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Share the video if the mood suits you, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.